You just bought your dream Ford truck. Maybe it's an F-150, maybe it's a Ranger, or perhaps you went with an Explorer for the family. You drove it off the lot feeling like $1,000,000, and for the first few months, everything is perfect. Then one day, without warning, your transmission starts jerking, or your engine loses power on the highway, or you're staring at a dashboard that looks like a Christmas tree exploded across it. Welcome to the club that nobody wants to join. Here's the thing though, these failures aren't random bad luck. They're predictable, documented problems that Ford has been dealing with for years across multiple model lines. Some of them Ford has quietly addressed through technical service bulletins. Others they've fought tooth and nail to avoid recalling. But whether Ford admits it or not, these 7 failures are happening to owners every single day, and most people have no idea they're coming until it's too late. I'm going to walk you through the 7 most common and most expensive Ford failures, explain exactly why they happen from an engineering standpoint, and most importantly, show you how to avoid becoming another statistic. Some of these you can prevent entirely with proper maintenance. Others you need to catch early before they turn into catastrophic, expensive disasters. By the end of this video, you'll know more about these issues than most Ford service advisors, and you'll have a game plan to keep your vehicle running strong. Let's dive in. Failure number 1, the infamous dual-clutch transmission. If you own a Ford Focus or Fiesta built between 2011 and 2016, you already know about this one. If you're thinking about buying one, run. Don't walk. Run in the opposite direction. The PowerShift dual-clutch transmission in these vehicles isn't just problematic. It's one of the worst engineering decisions Ford has made in modern history, and that's not hyperbole. There have been multiple class action lawsuits, thousands of complaints to the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, and Ford has spent over $2 billion on warranty repairs and settlements. The theory behind this transmission was actually sound. Dual-clutch transmissions offer the efficiency of a manual with the convenience of an automatic. They use 2 separate clutches, one for odd gears and one for even gears, which allows for lightning-fast shifts with no power interruption. They work great in high-performance sports cars where they're built to handle serious power and heat. The problem is that Ford tried to use this technology in economy cars that sit in stop-and-go traffic all day long. The clutches in these transmissions are what's called a dry clutch design. Unlike a traditional automatic transmission that has clutches bathed in fluid for cooling and lubrication, these clutches operate in open air. In traffic, where you're constantly creeping forward and stopping, these clutches are slipping constantly, generating tremendous heat with no way to dissipate it effectively. The clutch material wears out prematurely, and the transmission computer tries to compensate by adjusting the engagement point. This creates shuddering, jerking, hesitation, and eventually total failure. Here's how to avoid this nightmare. If you already own one of these vehicles, don't drive it in a way that makes the problem worse. Minimize stop-and-go driving when possible. When you're in slow traffic, instead of constantly inching forward, let a gap open up and then roll forward at a steady speed. This reduces the amount of clutch slipping. Some owners have found that putting the transmission in sport mode helps because it holds gears longer and reduces the number of shifts. Get the transmission fluid changed every 30,000 miles, even though Ford says it's lifetime fluid. That fluid helps cool the mechatronics unit even if it doesn't touch the clutches directly. Most importantly, if you're still under warranty or the extended warranty Ford offered as part of the settlement, document every single issue. Get it on record at the dealership every time the transmission acts up. If it fails catastrophically, you want that paper trail. And if you're shopping for a used car, just avoid these model years entirely. There are plenty of other reliable small cars out there that won't leave you stranded. Failure number 2, the EcoBoost coolant intrusion problem. The EcoBoost engine family has been a massive success for Ford overall. These turbocharged engines deliver impressive power and fuel economy. But the early versions, particularly the 3.5-liter V6 found in F-150s, Expeditions, and Navigators from 2011 through 2018, have a serious design flaw that can destroy the engine without warning. The problem centers around the intercooler, which is the component that cools the compressed air from the turbocharger before it enters the engine. Ford designed this intercooler to be cooled by engine coolant rather than air. It's mounted in the valley of the V6 engine between the cylinder banks. The intercooler has thin internal passages where hot coolant and cold compressed air flow on opposite sides of thin aluminum walls. Over time, these walls can develop cracks or pinhole leaks. When that happens, coolant gets sucked into the intake system and ingested directly into the cylinders. Water and coolant don't compress like air does. When a cylinder tries to compress a liquid, something has to give. Usually what gives is a connecting rod, which bends or breaks, punching a hole through the side of the engine block. This is called hydro-locking the engine, and it's catastrophic. You go from driving normally to having a completely destroyed engine in seconds. The repair cost is a new engine, which runs anywhere from $8,000 to $15,000 depending on who's doing the work. The evil part of this failure is that there's often very little warning. Some owners report a slight misfire or rough running right before it happens. Others describe white smoke from the exhaust for a brief period, but many experience zero warning. One moment they're cruising down the highway, the next moment the engine makes a horrible noise and dies completely. Ford issued a technical service bulletin about this problem, but stopped short of doing a recall. They extended the warranty on the intercooler to 10 years or 150,000 miles, but only for certain VIN ranges and only if you complain. Here's how you protect yourself. If you own one of these vehicles, check your coolant level religiously. We're talking every week or every time you fill up with gas. If you notice the coolant level dropping and you can't find any external leaks, that's your warning sign. The coolant is going somewhere, and it's probably going into the intake system. Get the intercooler replaced immediately before the engine destroys itself. Watch for any white smoke from the exhaust, especially during acceleration. That's coolant being burned in the cylinders. If you see this, stop driving the vehicle immediately and get it towed to a shop. There's also a proactive solution. Many owners in high-mileage situations choose to replace the factory intercooler with an aftermarket unit before it fails. Companies make upgraded intercoolers with thicker walls and better construction that eliminate this problem entirely. It costs around $1,500 for the part and installation, which seems expensive until you compare it to a new engine. If you're planning to keep your EcoBoost F-150 for the long haul, this is cheap insurance. Failure number 3. The Phantom Body Control Module. Modern Fords are loaded with electronics, and the body control module is the brain that manages everything from your lights and locks to your wipers and power windows. When this module fails or starts glitching, your vehicle can do some seriously weird stuff. We're talking lights flashing randomly, horn honking by itself, doors locking and unlocking on their own, gauges going haywire, and in some cases, the vehicle refusing to start at all, even though nothing is mechanically wrong. The body control module is essentially a computer circuit board mounted somewhere in the vehicle, usually behind the dash or under the driver's seat. It's vulnerable to heat, moisture, and vibration. Ford has had issues with these modules across multiple model lines. But the real problem isn't just that they fail, it's that the symptoms are so bizarre and intermittent that many owners and even some technicians struggle to diagnose the problem correctly. You might spend hundreds of dollars replacing batteries, alternators, and relays before someone finally figures out it's the BCM. The reason these modules fail prematurely often comes down to location and environmental factors. Modules mounted in areas that get hot or can be exposed to moisture from leaks or humidity are especially vulnerable. The circuit boards can develop cracked solder joints from vibration and thermal cycling. Corrosion can form on connectors. And once the module starts failing, the symptoms get progressively worse and more frequent. Here's how to avoid getting caught by this one. Pay attention to electrical weirdness before it becomes a crisis. If you notice your interior lights flickering, your radio resetting randomly, or your door locks acting possessed, don't ignore it. These are early warning signs that your BCM might be on its way out. Check for any water leaks in your vehicle. Water damage is a major killer of electronic modules. If you've ever had water inside your vehicle from a sunroof leak, clogged door drains, or a windshield seal failure, your BCM might be living on borrowed time. There's a preventive measure you can take. Some vehicles have the BCM mounted in locations that are prone to moisture. If you know your specific model has this issue, you can add extra weather protection around the module. Some owners have sealed vulnerable connectors with dielectric grease and even added moisture-absorbing packets near the module location. It sounds extreme, but a $200 BCM replacement is nothing compared to the hassle of dealing with a vehicle that randomly won't start or acts like it's haunted. Failure number 4. The cam phaser rattle of death. If you own a Ford with a V8 engine, particularly the 5.4-liter 3-valve engine found in F-150s, Expeditions, and Mustangs from the mid-2000s, you've probably heard about cam phasers. Maybe you've even heard them rattling away under your hood on cold starts. This problem has become so common that experienced Ford owners can diagnose it from the sound alone. Cam phasers are devices that allow the engine computer to adjust valve timing on the fly for better performance and fuel economy. They work using oil pressure to rotate the camshaft slightly relative to the timing chain. It's actually clever technology when it works properly. The problem is that these phasers need clean oil at the correct pressure to function. They have very tight tolerances and small passages that can get clogged or wear out. When they start to fail, they make a horrific rattling noise on startup that sounds like a diesel engine, or like someone is shaking a can of marbles inside your engine. The failure happens because the phaser isn't locking in position when the engine is off. When you start the engine, there's a brief moment before oil pressure builds up, where the phaser can rattle around loosely. In severe cases, the phaser can actually break apart internally, sending metal debris through your engine and potentially destroying it. Even if it doesn't catastrophically fail, a worn phaser affects engine performance, fuel economy, and can damage the timing chain and guides from the excessive vibration it creates. Here's the crucial part about avoiding this failure. Oil changes are everything with these engines. Ford might say you can go 7,000 miles between oil changes, but if you want your cam phasers to survive, you need to change your oil every 5,000 miles maximum. Use high-quality synthetic oil with the correct viscosity. Keep your oil level topped up because these engines tend to consume oil as they age, and low oil level accelerates phaser wear dramatically. If you're already hearing the telltale rattling noise on cold starts, you're in the early stages of failure. At this point, you have options. Some owners have had success using oil additives designed to clean the phaser mechanisms, though results vary. The proper fix is to replace the phasers, which typically means both intake and exhaust phasers on both cylinder heads, for a total of 4 units plus timing chains and guides. This is not cheap. You're looking at $3,000 to $5,000 at a shop. But catching it early and replacing the phasers before they grenade can save your engine. Wait too long, ignore the noise, and you might end up with internal engine damage that costs exponentially more to repair. Failure number 5. The heater core coolant leak. This one sneaks up on people because the early symptoms seem minor and annoying rather than serious. You notice a sweet smell inside your vehicle, kind of like maple syrup or candy. Your windshield keeps fogging up on the inside no matter how much you clean it. You find your floor mats are damp or wet even though you haven't driven through any puddles. Maybe you notice your coolant level dropping slowly over time. All of these are signs that your heater core is leaking, and if you don't address it promptly, you're in for an expensive and miserable repair. The heater core is essentially a small radiator mounted inside your dashboard. Hot coolant from the engine flows through it, and when you turn on your heat, air blows across this core and into your cabin. It's located deep inside the dashboard assembly, which makes it one of the most labor-intensive components to replace on any vehicle. The cores themselves can fail for several reasons. Corrosion from using the wrong coolant or old degraded coolant is a major cause. Electrolysis from stray electrical currents in the cooling system can eat through the thin metal tubes. Even physical stress from thermal expansion and contraction can cause cracks over years of use. Ford vehicles seem particularly prone to heater core failures on certain models, especially trucks and SUVs that accumulate high mileage. The problem compounds because by the time most people recognize what's happening, the leak has been going on for a while. That leaking coolant has been soaking into your carpet, your sound insulation, and your dash padding. Even after the heater core is replaced, you're left with a musty smell and potential mold growth that's nearly impossible to eliminate completely. Here's how you prevent this nightmare scenario. First, maintain your cooling system properly. Use the correct coolant type for your vehicle, not just any generic coolant from the auto parts store. Flush your cooling system according to the maintenance schedule, typically every 5 years or 60,000 miles. Old coolant becomes acidic and corrosive over time. Watch for any of those early warning signs we talked about. The sweet smell, the foggy windshield, the damp carpet. If you catch it early when it's just starting to weep rather than actively gushing, you can get it replaced before it causes extensive water damage. Some people ask if there are stop leak products that can seal a heater core without replacement. The honest answer is maybe temporarily, but it's a gamble. Stop leak products work by circulating through your cooling system and attempting to seal leaks from the inside. Sometimes they work for a little while. Other times they clog up other parts of your cooling system like your radiator or thermostat. If you're trying to limp a vehicle along for a few more months, it might be worth trying. But understand that it's not a permanent fix, and eventually you'll need to bite the bullet on the replacement. Failure number 6. The timing chain. Stretch and guide failure. Older engines used timing belts that needed replacement at specific intervals. Modern Ford engines mostly use timing chains that are supposed to last the life of the engine. In theory, this is great. No more expensive timing belt services every 100,000 miles. In practice, these timing chains and the plastic guides that keep them in place are wearing out much earlier than expected, leading to catastrophic engine damage when they fail. The problem affects multiple Ford engines, but it's particularly common on the 2.0-liter and 2.3-liter EcoBoost 4 cylinders. The timing chain stretches over time from normal wear, and the plastic timing chain guides crack and break apart. When a guide breaks, the chain can jump teeth on the gears or even come completely off. When that happens, the pistons and valves collide with each other because they're no longer synchronized. This is called engine interference, and it results in bent valves, damaged pistons, and cylinder head damage. You're looking at a complete engine rebuild or replacement. The timing chain stretches because of several factors working together. Oil quality and oil change intervals are huge. Running your oil too long or using cheap oil accelerates chain wear. These engines also have small oil passages feeding the chain tensioners. And if those passages get clogged with sludge from old oil, the tensioner can't maintain proper chain tension. High mileage and aggressive driving also contribute. Every time you rev the engine hard, that chain is getting stretched and stressed. The warning signs of timing chain problems are there if you know what to listen for. You might hear a rattling or slapping noise from the front of the engine on startup or during acceleration. The engine might run rough or have trouble starting. In some cases, the check engine light comes on with codes related to variable valve timing being out of range. If your engine has been making noise that sounds like it's coming from the timing cover area, take it seriously. That noise is not going to get better on its own, and every mile you drive is increasing the risk of catastrophic failure. Prevention starts with religious oil changes using high-quality synthetic oil. For these turbocharged engines, 5,000-mile oil change intervals are the maximum you should push it. Keep your oil level topped up because low oil level increases chain wear exponentially. If you hear any suspicious noises from the front of the engine, have it inspected immediately. Some shops can perform a timing chain inspection without completely tearing the engine down, checking for stretch and guide wear. If the chain is marginal, replacing it proactively costs $2,000 to $3,000. Rebuilding an engine after the chain fails costs 3 to 4 times that amount. Failure number 7. The evaporative emission system purge valve. This last one might not sound as dramatic as grenaded engines and failed transmissions, but it causes massive frustration for Ford owners and often leads to expensive, unnecessary repairs when misdiagnosed. The EVAP system is designed to capture fuel vapors from your gas tank and burn them in the engine, rather than releasing them into the atmosphere. The purge valve controls when these vapors get fed into the engine. When this valve fails, which it does frequently on Fords, you get check engine lights, rough running, hard starting, and fuel economy problems. The purge valve is a relatively simple solenoid-controlled valve, but it's exposed to fuel vapors constantly, and it cycles on and off thousands of times during normal driving. The internal diaphragm can tear or develop leaks. The solenoid can fail electrically. Carbon buildup can prevent the valve from sealing properly. When the valve sticks open, raw fuel vapors flood into the intake manifold at the wrong time, causing rich running conditions and rough idle. When it sticks closed, the EVAP system can't purge properly, triggering fault codes and potentially damaging the charcoal canister. What makes this particularly frustrating is that the fault codes associated with EVAP system problems are often vague. You might get a code for small EVAP leak or a code for purge flow malfunction. Many mechanics immediately start looking for leaks in hoses and checking the gas cap, which leads to diagnostic fees and no actual fix. The purge valve costs around $50 and takes 10 minutes to replace on most Fords, but owners often end up spending hundreds chasing ghosts before someone actually tests the valve itself. You can avoid this hassle by being proactive. The purge valve is considered a wear item even though most people don't realize it. Replacing it every 100,000 miles or so is cheap insurance against check engine lights and drivability problems. If you get an EVAP-related code, test the purge valve before doing anything else. You can actually hear it clicking when the engine is running if you put your ear near it. You can remove it and blow through it to check if it's sealing properly. Some auto parts stores will test it for free. Don't let a mechanic sell you a new gas cap, new hoses, and hours of diagnostic time when a $50 valve is the actual culprit. The bottom line: These 7 failures represent the most common and most expensive problems Ford owners face across multiple model years and vehicle types. The pattern you probably noticed is that most of these issues can be prevented or caught early with proper maintenance and attention to warning signs. Ford builds millions of vehicles, and the vast majority run reliably for hundreds of thousands of miles. But when problems do occur, they tend to follow predictable patterns. The key takeaway is that knowledge is power. Now that you understand these common failure points, you can watch for early symptoms, perform preventive maintenance, and avoid the catastrophic, expensive failures that catch unprepared owners by surprise. Don't ignore weird noises, check engine lights, or unusual behavior from your vehicle. These are your early warning system. Address small problems before they become big problems. Keep up with maintenance using quality parts and fluids. And when something does go wrong, you'll have the knowledge to guide the conversation with your mechanic rather than being at their mercy. Your Ford can be a reliable vehicle that serves you well for years. But like any complex machine, it requires attention and care. Use what you've learned here to stay ahead of these common failures, and you'll save yourself thousands of dollars and countless headaches down the road.